Greg, what's going on?
Yeah, all good, man. How many coffees have you had?
I don't drink coffee at all. Nothing stimulating. So no coffee, no alcohol, conversation, usual kind of stuff. So
no alcohol, no coffee, no conversation.
Correct.
Just get that on a t-shirt.
I'm all out of custom t-shirt orders currently. I'm trying to dial in my spending. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of me saying things like that in the past, but historically it doesn't go well. So expect me to be wearing a brand new custom t-shirt in the next episode.
Yeah.
But you keeping all right?
Yeah, all good.
Excellent. Oh, we've got some big news to discuss, and it's a big, slightly interesting thing.
Interesting.
It is slightly interesting. I think but I think it is quite interesting. But then again, that is coming from somebody who is quite tech orientated. But I would love to discuss what Canva have done.
Go on. So explain what Canva is for anyone who's living under a rock.
Canva is a. Do you know what? It's funny. I've never used it. So, but I understand it is an easy way of creating kind of templates, designs, layouts, kind of stuff like that. And they offer you a billion different kind of starting points. And I know it's basically made. Gesundheit. I know it was beautifully timed. I know it's made kind of a lot of branding stuff more accessible to various people in the way it makes it a lot easier to be able to do all this stuff with kind of presets and layouts and templates and stuff like that. Now, quickly, this is not at all sponsored by Canva or anything like that. And really, the views in it are kind of against Adobe, I guess, is why I wanted to talk about this this change. So about a year or 18 months ago, maybe even longer, Canva, this huge kind of relatively new company, as far as kind of, they're not as old as Adobe, for example. They bought Serif. Now, Serif have long been if you don't know who Serif are, they're the guys who made the Affinity range of apps. So you had Affinity Photo, you had
Infinity. Thinking they were a font.
No, good font though.
Font style.
So they had Affinity Photo, Affinity Publisher, and they also had something else. It was an Illustrator type vector program. I can't even remember what it was called, but I've never used it. So, and I've been using Publisher for years. Actually, Publisher 2 is the most recent one that I've been using, and I've been doing all my portfolio layouts and kind of anything kind of that needed a print layout or something. I've been doing within Publisher. I'm trying to move away from the Adobe ecosystem. I think, as we all do, that Adobe has abandoned the people who made their software popular in the first place. I don't like pretty much any of their practices as a company. And the final straw for me was the skip the photo shoot advertising that they were doing. Mm-hmm. And that to me was so uncontrollably tone deaf that I was like, okay, how quickly can I move away from the Adobe ecosystem? So I dropped InDesign the same day I saw that skip the photo shoot thing, because I didn't really use it very much. So I basically ported everything over to Publisher. And then I dropped Premiere Pro years ago. Like, I've been using Resolve, and I strongly suggest everyone uses Resolve because it's an amazing bit of software. I have the studio version, but the free version will do pretty much everything you need. And then Affinity Photo. Now, Affinity Photo for most people was going to be doing whatever you needed. So, but they were they didn't have any of the generative AI features, and it was kind of Photoshop, but kind of 5 or 6 years ago. And for a lot of things, that was totally great. The cool thing about Affinity was that it was a one-time purchase. So you would buy, Affinity Photo V1 and run it for 3 or 4 years, and then you would buy Affinity Photo V2, and it wasn't expensive, I think, and they quite often went on sale and stuff. So when Canva bought Serif Affinity, I was like, oh no. Because obviously with Mainframed, I've been kind of recommending out to, one of my things is that we try and, reduce monthly payments, or, we try and find alternatives for people who either don't want to go down the Adobe route. So I have a really long list of alternatives that do various things. And Affinity were always on that list. And then Canva bought them, and I suddenly went, oh, okay, this feels very much like Affinity might go down the Adobe monthly subscription route. And so I was like, kind of like on edge, really thinking about what they were going to be doing. And then a few months ago, the Affinity website went down, and it just said, creative freedom is coming. And you go, that doesn't feel very, that feels kind of like, really? Is this going to be, is this, you're selling it out? And so 2 days ago, it got announced and released, and I've downloaded it and I've tested it. And what they've done is they've rolled those 3 Affinity apps into a single app called Affinity by Canva. And it's really cool. It's actually kind of cool. So you have personas now at the top. So you're able to jump between Pixel, which is the photo, Layout, which was the publisher, and Design, which was the Illustrator type vector drawing software. And you're able to open an image and do all of that. Now, full disclosure, I won't be able to use, but I'll be able to use it for all my layouts and stuff like that. It doesn't have advanced macro or action control, so I can't program Apple Script into it, which I know for most people, they'll be like, why would you need to do that? I have specific jobs on specific clients that require quite heavy action scripting. So some of that won't be able to work for me. But for a lot of people, did I mention what they did?
No.
It's free.
Right. Totally free.
Totally free. Apart from if you want to use their AI features, and full disclosure, at the time of releasing this or recording this, I haven't used them. They want to charge you a yearly subscription to access those features. Totally fair enough. For most people, that will be totally, the free version now will be totally good enough for a lot of things. Especially now as Capture One's retouching, which again, an update got released to that last week, which now means the face retouching extends down to the neck, for example. There's little things there, and Capture One is now getting so good. Full disclosure, I do work with Capture One, but I would be saying that regardless if I didn't. It's now getting so good as far as kind of all of that sort of stuff goes that I very rarely now need to go into Photoshop anyway in the first place. So when Canva released this thing, I was kind of going, actually, to a lot of people, Capture One and now this Affinity app, that genuinely might work for a lot of people. And I was really impressed. Now it's slightly different layout, and you have to obviously get used to a few of the different things that are different to Photoshop. But if you really, really don't like the Adobe ecosystem, well, Canva have really just, it's free. So if you want to try it, go and download it and try it. And then I think the subscription is £170 a year.
And yeah, wow. Okay, so this is contrasting with the Adobe price rises that people have been stung by recently, where their monthly outgoings to Adobe have suddenly gone up.
How much is your Adobe subscription?
£12.97, I think, a month, because I only have the Lightroom Photoshop.
Oh, okay, fine. Oh, you've got the good one. Yeah, no. I have to have the full suite, because I have a couple of clients who have video toolkits in Premiere Pro, and I'm currently asking them to port it over or bring it over to Resolve. But Creative Cloud Pro, I'm on the website now. It is currently £66.49 a month. And that's cool if you're getting that amount of value from it.
Yeah,
but I'm not.
No.
I'm genuinely not, and I'm not like trying to be difficult or like, oh, I hate Adobe and whatnot. I've used Adobe products for years. I can literally navigate around them with my eyes closed. How I have my Photoshop set up is wild. But their practices and what they've done, and that skip the photo shoot thing, sorry man, I'm out. I want to get as far away from all of that as I can, and I thought this was a really, really interesting move by Canva.
I think the tricky thing for a lot of photographers that are used to, I've got Lightroom catalogs going back to 2003, and so I have an entire archive which is based on Lightroom catalogs. Normally one a year. That's how I tend to use them, and there hasn't, as of yet, been for me a decent alternative for Lightroom catalogs. And I know I use a mix of Capture and Lightroom depending on the type of job. And quite often, after having processed a shoot in Capture, I will ingest it into my Lightroom catalog to kind of archive it. Now, obviously, Capture offer catalogs, but as of yet, I've struggled with using them. Yeah. And I think that's an area, and we've both chatted to Capture, about this, because we've both said that this is an area that if they could nail that, I think there would be a lot of photographers that are currently using Lightroom which would potentially say, right, I can fully move over now. Yeah. The other thing, in defense of Adobe, not really in defense of them, but I'm not sure if you saw the latest updates to Lightroom. I haven't used them yet myself, but they've started to bring in quite advanced features into Lightroom with AI culling and various kind of dust removal and the retouch features, which are the ones I have used have been pretty good. What's interesting now is you've kind of got this arms race between people like Capture and Adobe, where they are making these huge improvements, which obviously photographers are benefiting from those kind of updated features. So it's going to be interesting to see, where that leads. I think, like you, I would love to be able to get out of that subscription system, because subscriptions to software like that are just, when that first started coming out kind of in lockdown, when people started moving more towards a subscription system in all areas of our life, it was like, oh God, they've fully figured out how to just draw money out of you.
I do get it. Like, software is expensive to develop, sorry. And I totally understand. But there are ways of doing it, and there are ways of just every time I go to renew with Photoshop or Adobe, sorry, it's always so much more expensive every single time. And actually, it's just exhausting. And the problem is, we've got the Adobe, the Capture, everything is now on subscription, which is totally fine, because I understand it. And if I'm going to support a company, or if I'm going to use a company's products, I want them to not appreciate me, because it's not like love me. It's more just I would much rather they didn't try and fight against my career, right?
Yeah.
Like, using Capture One, I feel like they genuinely are now listening. After a couple of years out in the wilderness, I do feel like they've come back and actually listening now to their end user. And you've seen in the past year or two, the changes to that software have been astronomical, and it's made it so much more user friendly. And just there have been features there that have just been completely not, yeah, I mean, kind of game changing really for a lot of our workflows, for mine especially. And then you've got, honestly, that whole skip the photo shoot thing it really cut to the core of Adobe being so distant from their end users. And I know not all their end users are photographers. I get that. I totally do. But I kind of feel almost like they might be the turkeys who voted for Christmas, because I don't know if you've seen their stock price.
I've seen graphs where it does not look healthy.
It doesn't, and I wish them the best. But it's almost like, if you are fighting to put your customer base out of business because you're just trying to please shareholders, it's almost, and believe it or not, this is the whole, the race to the race to the bottom with AI. Everyone is like, yeah, look at all this stuff. It's great, it's great, it's great. If, however, the end users don't use your product, you then don't have a revenue stream. And companies with shareholders do quite like revenue streams, right? And so people are trying to leave Adobe in their droves. And I think I think they're going, oh, right. It turns out if you annoy your user base, well, there are other things they can use. And I think this thing by Canva, if you can spend a bit of time getting used to it and changing, various parts of their workflow, if I'm seriously going to entertain it, and it's an interesting one, because you do need to look into all the small print on things. I know if things are free, you are the product if it's free, for example, social media and stuff like that. But this specifically says that no work, and last time I checked, it said that no work is being used to train AI when you're working on it within Affinity. And you kind of go, okay, so really what they're trying to do is they're trying to go down the Resolve model, offer the base version for free, and then if you want the advanced features, well, then you have to pay for the subscription. Which I like that. I like that model.
It's a clever way as well, because you get people in, you get people used to your software, and then as they get more advanced, they are going to start becoming clients and pay. That makes sense. I think the whole thing with the AI improvements in photo editing is that it is a bit of an arms race. And, to say that these clients don't really, they're not really thinking about the consequences of these things. They're just trying to get the features out there. It's because it's just this race to who can have the most kind of sensational new features. You look at Nano Banana and stuff. It's exciting, but at the same time, it's kind of, there's no checks and balances on any of it. It's just being put out there and put out there and put out there, and that's for AI all over, because it's literally just, let's just get this out there and start testing it, without any kind of anyone putting their foot on the brake slightly to say, let's actually think about the implications of this and what will this potentially mean for this. Well, and what's been interesting is how much it's developed in, look at Sora. What's the whole point with Sora having a social media, which was, to develop AI video clips that go viral. I personally don't understand what the benefit of putting out kind of AI video generation is, to some extent, because it's obviously going to get massively abused in so many ways. It's got huge implications, and yet no one seems to have gone, hang on. It feels like it's just a load of tech bros going, oh, this is a really cool feature. Look at this. I can make a video of Michael Jackson, a viral video of Michael Jackson. There's all these videos coming out of people that I don't know. It feels like there's a real sense of it being like, oh, this is really cool, without any sense of what's the purpose of it? Why are we doing this? It's not been checked in any way.
Well, the reason they're doing it is because it's very hard to get people excited about doing something in a little bit of text or a spreadsheet. It is way more visually enticing to be able to show off an image or like a video sequence being created, because that genuinely will blow someone's mind. It does also obviously offer up the questions of, we're coming up to various kind of large elections coming up in the next few years, and AI isn't legislated. The governments are sleepwalking around. They're enticed, I am sure, by these seemingly huge figures that kind of people are talking about. Like OpenAI, I saw something the other day that they were somebody said that they were going to be the first $1 trillion float on the IPO or something, or a flight, an IPO. And it was just all these figures they're hemorrhaging money. So all these companies, I don't know if any of them are making any profit. And so it's all everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. I'm sure I've mentioned before, there was an MIT kind of report that came out a couple of months ago that said, I think about 85 or 90% of companies that had invested heavily in AI products were yet to see any sort of return, either financially or through productivity, on their initial investment. And you kind of go, if really, let's talk about AI for being what it is. It is not AI. AI is a fantastic tool, marketing tool, right? Artificial intelligence. It sounds so futuristic. Well, let's break it down to what it is, actually basic brass tacks. AI technically doesn't exist, or AGI technically. I'm sure it probably does exist in a lab somewhere, but they'll keep that locked down. And do you think the general public are really going to get like AGI? No, absolutely not. But what we get is machine learning. And machine learning is basically automation, right? All of this stuff that everyone's kind of harping on and about with AI, and kind of everyone's kind of singing up to the hills about it. It is just automation trained on previously run data. So they know, for example, if I pick up this glass, I am likely to drink from it. I am not likely to put socks in it. And it's all machine. It's basically all learning and algorithms and stuff like that. AI is just how it's wrapped up for marketing. And seemingly, this massive AI race is, propping up a lot of economies. People are absolutely kind of desperate for chips. They're desperate to invest in this stuff. And really, it's going to be a super, super interesting 18 months because I feel like the cows are going to... Hang on, it's not the cows who come home to roost, isn't it?
Chickens. Confused cows.
Yeah, right. So the cows are out there, the chickens are in here. And what happens when those cows do come home to roost is, you're going to suddenly be like, okay, well, this stuff isn't as useful as I thought it was. GPT-5 got released a few months ago. The reaction to it has been like fairly nonplussed. The reactions are much slower. It's hallucinating a lot. I'm finding that when I'm using it less, I'm using AI less and less and less now, because actually when I do try and get into it with something, I'm finding that I'm having to correct it a lot, or I'm having to be like, no, that's not right. Why have you made this overly complicated? This is what needs to happen. So actually, is it as useful as everyone thinks? I'm starting to find it less useful, especially from kind of especially from kind of like a scripting point of view. When I'm building Apple scripts and things like that, it'll just build in extra steps that I haven't asked it for, that make it infinitely more likely to fail and or complicated, and for no reason whatsoever. So I'm kind of just, and I'm not against AI. I'm obviously against how they sourced all the material and everything like that, but I use it a lot, and I'm just finding it now less and less useful. And let's bring it back to Adobe, right? In our Exposed Negative podcast group, people will post up hilarious Photoshop fails where AGI, instead of removing a little bit of white from around the top of a shirt, has put a baby's face randomly in that hole.
Generative AI. Right, we're not secretly using. We haven't secretly got it in the WhatsApp group, by the way.
No. But it's,
that's not a Patreon perk.
No, imagine
you can have AGI first.
But it's becoming less and less useful. And actually, when that sort of thing happens at first, you go, yeah, that's kind of funny. But I was deleting. I was trying to remove like a like just a reflection
baby's
of a
head
light.
from a neck. Okay, no.
No, not trying to do that anymore. But trying to, oh, sorry. Oh, man. Sorry, all this AI talk has just knackered me out. I was trying to remove a reflection of a circular light, and instead it replaced it with a Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that useful?
Does seem to have an obsession with Bitcoins. I saw somebody else, so they turned a swan into a Bitcoin or something.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's surreptitiously trying to, like, I don't know, push us towards something. I don't know.
Honestly, it's really mad, and I just feel with everyone's push, this is all moving like you said earlier. No checks and balances. Everyone's just pushing this forward, and it just is. I don't. It's a
kind of
hard one.
liken it. I liken it a little bit to, you know, people learning how to 3D print guns or something like that. There's a sense of like, okay, it's interesting as a concept that you might be able to do that, and you can build something that is 3D printed, but should you be doing it? Right. And I think with the AI, there's none of those checks and balances. It's just kind of like push forward as quickly as we can, and then no one's saying, but should we maybe be doing this? It's a bit like, imagine if this level of I don't think in human history we've seen this level of pace in change, you know, with something that as drastically powerful as this will be, and how the major implications that this is going to have in our generation. Like by the end of our lives, we are going to be very much living in a very different world. And as two people who are parents, it's kind of quite daunting to look at this when you're thinking, well, what are our kids coming into? What's the world going to look like? It's incredibly difficult to actually frame this.
I feel for them by that point there will be more certainty, because I feel by that point, you know, there'll be 10 years down the line, hopefully the next, you know, I would severely suggest if you are worried about the next 10 years, you do not watch The Diary of a CEO with Mo Gawdat. But the next 10 years are going to be super interesting. And I kind of feel that at that point, hopefully things have settled and whatnot. But I do genuinely, as a father and as just a, you know, as a friend to people in the music industry, for example, who are now looking to retrain because, you know, AI now creates, you know, I think there's an AI rap track that is currently charting in the Billboard charts, and you go, what? At some point, all of this will be AI bots listening to AI music, looking at AI video, looking at an AI photo. And you kind of go, at some point, we're just going to have to switch the internet off. This is
what I find so confusing about the Sora stuff. And I mean, it is purely designed to go viral, because it's going to be like, oh, isn't this wild that there's this crazy video of a cat with a shotgun? But it's like, why would you? I find it slightly bizarre that people kind of want to sit there and just literally look at something that's being computer generated. I don't know. I mean, it's just me. I'm old fashioned.
No, I'm with you. I think what's interesting is I was chatting to a client friend of mine, and I was saying AI for a lot of things is good enough. And I think for a lot of people, their kind of like idea of quality is that they just don't necessarily. You know, in my career, I've always kind of strived for as best as I could provide and create. And I would always try and, you know, part of the creative process was all me trying to create what was good enough for me. But I feel that a lot of people's levels of good enough actually are far lower than maybe the bar that I set for myself. And so if you are, if you are creating this and you're just wowed by the kind of the experience of creating, I think the way I put it is it took the talent from the talented and put it in the hands of the untalented or the people without that talent. And harsh as though that sounds, is that maybe actually not everyone should have that talent or that talent. And there should be in this world, you know, a breadth of people with different skills. I think happening.
I think the counter argument to that, though, is there's the same argument was made with photography in the sense of painting and drawing and draftsmanship as a skilled kind of artisanal pursuit, and then somebody brings along photography and anyone can kind of do it. It democratizes it. It makes it more accessible. It's the same with, you know, the way that people are looking at screenwriting to then be able to put that as a prompt and create something is quite exciting to some degree for somebody who doesn't have the resources to make the vision that they might have. So you could argue, well, it's still about the ideas. I guess the difficulty is that we're coming at it through people who've invested 20 years into a craft, which now feels like it doesn't have the value that it once had, and has not therefore got the respect that it once had, and therefore doesn't have the financial, reward that it once had. So it's a difficult situation for us because we're looking at it with skin in the game. Whereas if you're 15, years old and you're really interested in photography and yet you can put something into a prompt and kind of get these ideas that are in your head and create them, then I can understand the appeal to it.
Oh, here's the thing. I can definitely understand the appeal. The problem is I know you talk about democratizing a skill or something, but what AI does is democratizes pretty much everything. And so when everyone has access to everything, well, why would anyone hire anyone? Right? Because you're not hiring, because you can just imitate and you can kind of just pull and stuff like this. I think what's going to be really interesting is let's have this chat again in 2 years, because we're now at the point where about 80% of the content online is AI generated, as in text, as in articles, and the number of AI generated videos and images is obviously climbing. At what point does AI start obviously training itself fully? But at what point does human content production almost cease in relation to the amount that's getting uploaded? And what effect does that have on model collapse? Do we see, and I'm sure at some point they'll find a way around all of this stuff and things like that. But if AI is just training on AI, and I was trying to explain model collapse to someone the other day, I was like, if you take a photograph and you photocopy it, and then you photocopy that photocopy, and then you photocopy that photocopy, they start to look like very, very different bits of, they're technically the same art, right? But they're very, very different. And so I think it's going to be a really, really interesting time. And you're seeing kind of like, just with the Adobe, with the baby in the tie, or the Bitcoin randomly replacing a sun or a swan or whatever. Well, that's not right. So that is basically, you're starting to see elements of this, and whether or not that is just model collapse, I don't know, but it's just going to be a very interesting time, because you've got all these tech bros who are saying, look at all these savings we can make, look at all this stuff it can do. And it's kind of like, actually, where is the peak of its ability? Because it needs a fresh kind of batch of data to train new models on. We reached saturation point a year, 18 months ago. So there was no more human data available to train AI. AI had basically ingested it all. And you go, well, at this point, it's now training on content it's produced. Well, what's going to happen? And nobody really knows. None of this, I can't give you a good answer, but you've got these guys up at the top, sorry, who are saying, yeah, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And then you've got everyone else going, well, actually, is my job safe? Is my workload seems to have dropped off? Is it because of AI, or is it because of the economy? What's going on? There's huge amounts of uncertainty. So people are pulling spend. And then you've got companies like Adobe who are doing things like, upsetting their user base. So their share price is kind of going down. The whole thing is like a perfect storm, I feel, of, oh crap, what's coming? Kind of, I can't give you an answer. I feel like we're expecting some sort of global economic crash. And it'll be really interesting to see how these, especially the AI companies, are able to realize everything they are saying is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And it does very much feel like they're not going to be able to do it, because the numbers they're talking about in relation to, even, let's talk about like brass tacks, the amount of power that is needed to open these new data centers that people like OpenAI are talking about. Well, those data centers don't exist currently. There's no spade in the ground. And how are you going to power them? Like the power capacity isn't there. Now, we've seen in our lifetime, these projects to get power to places, they can take forever to get off the ground. There is no like, tomorrow we'll just switch it on and everything will be fine. These things take a huge amount of time. And so, yeah,
it's also water usage is the other main one, isn't it? With a lot of these places.
Yeah. It's. I mean, but the thing is, just build them by the coast. If you need water, honestly, it's just. I don't know. I feel very tentative about everything because for years I've normally been able to kind of see a route through things. I've normally been able to kind of be like, okay, well, I reckon that might happen, so I'm going to plan for that. On this one, I have got no idea how this is going to turn out. And I think if there's a lot of people who are being really honest with themselves, I think they would probably be like, I also don't know, because you've got these companies who've really come out of nowhere, who are promising the earth, who haven't got any revenue. They're losing billions of dollars. Microsoft released some statistics or a report the other day, and it looked like it was about 11.5. I full disclosure, I might be getting these figures wrong. Figures are not my strong point, but it looked like there was a loss, an open AI loss of around $11.5 billion, which is quite a lot of money. just gonna be that guy, and it does very much feel like, when all this hype drops off, what are we going to be actually left with? Because there's also, on the flip side of this, is if people become so dependent on AI, and I know a lot of it's free at source and things like that, but it is not going to stay free or cheap or anything like that. As soon as everybody relies on it, the price will go up and up and up. And so
I don't know. You'll have a disparity between people that can use AI and can afford to use AI, and the rest of people who can't, and the implications that has on a broader sense for society as well.
Yeah, but also going back to your point about should we be doing this, I'm getting bombarded now with loads of different things saying, "Do you need an AI agent for this? We've put an AI agent into this," and you go, "Didn't need that. What I need, your product was good 10 years ago, and you need to just stop and just maintain it. All you needed to do there is stop trying to, it's full of bloat now. It's slow, it lags, and you don't need this. Do I need an AI agent? No, I absolutely don't need that to do that for me. It's just, is it needed? If it truly is needed, I get it, put it in. But if it isn't needed, stop trying to jump on this train. Like, honestly, the bandwagon, even not the train. Don't jump on the train
with the cows.
With the cows. I am butchering everything on this one. Bloody hell.
There's also the broader implications of what it means for society in terms of skills being lost, surely. Because if you are constantly relying on AI to write your emails and to write your essays and to do all of this stuff, then you're not actually going to be developing those skills yourself.
100%.
I do, this has happened throughout history, so it's not unknown that skills get lost. I don't think it's ever been done on a scale of this, which is going to affect every single area. It's not like a niche subset of skills, such as, when draftsmanship kind of disappeared and computers took over, and suddenly people can't draw those things by hand, but they can do a great job in CAD.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's going to be writing, photography, image creation, video creation, audio creation, so many different areas that those skills are going to be lost in.
100%. And the problem is AI is really a black box, right? Because people are pumping all this stuff into it. They've got no idea how it really works. And they're just then going, it works, cool. That's great. I don't need to question it. I'm just getting a result, and that's good enough, right? But I saw this brilliant thing. I saw this brilliant post on Instagram by Meemalee, so Meemalee. And it says they're trying to convince people they can't do the things that they've been doing easily for years. To write emails, to write a presentation. Your daughter wants you to make up a bedtime story about puppies, to write that for you. We will get to the point, she says, with a grim laugh, that you will essentially become just a skin bag of organs and bones and nothing else. You won't know anything, and you'll be told repeatedly that you can't do it, which is the opposite of what life has to offer. Capitulating all kinds of decisions like where to go on vacation, what to wear today, who to date, what to eat. People are already doing this. You won't have to process grief because you'll have uploaded photos and voice messages from your mother who just died, and then she can talk to you via AI video call every other day. One of the ways it's going to destroy humans, long before that of a nuclear disaster, is going to be the emotional hollowing out of people.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I'm reading a bit further down. I'm glad I screenshotted this. Now, that was Justine Bateman on generative AI. And I just thought it was such an interesting thing because, yes, people are losing the skills. People are going to be starting to lose kind of emotional kind of capacity and stuff like that. When
Well, you've already
GPT
seen the implications of people using it for dating and therapy, and
Yeah.
you know, there's been teen suicides based off the back of the
Yeah.
dependence that kids are already kind of putting into this thing.
It is so worrying. And then at no point is there ever, like you say, the check and balance. And should we be doing this? It's always like, look what we can do. Look what we can do. Well, actually, whoa, pump those brakes. And I kind of
Yeah.
feel like if Adobe is the canary in the coal mine, I'm all right for that to be the case. It's a very odd time to be alive. And historians, if there are any left in a few hundred years, will this will be one of the most fascinating times of history, which doesn't make it any easier. Obviously, living through it is bloody tough. Just from like a business point of view, just trying to plan anything is, nigh on impossible. So anyway, I kind of feel like I've run out of steam. Let me ask ChatGPT what I should talk about next.
Well, I think that was an interesting take. I think it would be good to get some comments from listeners on this. If there's anyone who has any opinions they want to put in the comments, and obviously on YouTube, please pop that in the comments or send us an email at info@exposednegative.com. Because it is a subject that is affecting us all, and some people have got some really interesting takes on this stuff. But I think we need a bit more optimism at the moment. It feels like it's a hard time to be optimistic about it, but I'm always up for some optimistic takes on this thing.
Well, me and you should chat. Cool. All right, guys. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed that. Apologies for me just talking almost nonstop. But yeah, obviously it's a bit of a funny one. But enjoy it. Hopefully we'll catch you on the next one.